I know it's not really comics or sci-fi, but we talked about in one of our earlier episodes that we wanted to talk about it anyways, and that's the sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Stepping outside of my sci-fi nerd, I'm willing to say it's sci-fi for this. That was a great show, and I was so sad that it ended, and I'm glad that they're not doing a continuation. I mean, would you rather had a continuation, or are you glad that they're setting this off a little bit too?
No, I'm glad this isn't like 2 months later after the third season of Avatar. That was really its own thing, and even though it was only 3 seasons, which it was always planned to be 3 seasons, it wasn't canceled or anything, that was fine how it was. It was short but sweet. It was short and sweet rather than long and on for 2 more seasons than it should have been.
Yeah, that's the thing. We talked about before. Our sweet spot is 5 seasons. And 3 seasons is what you need to be, show that you're successful. 5 seasons where you should be ending. 7 seasons really should wrap it up. And I'm glad that they recognize that this is our story. We told our story. We love the world. Let's tell a different story. Because too often they'll reboot something that's been finished well, and then the new ending is terrible.
Brian Konietzko, I think it was, is stated in the commentary on season 3, said, if somebody came into a room with me and said, hey, I want to tell you the greatest story ever, but it doesn't have an ending, he said, I would just walk out of the room. He's like, because I don't care how great the story is, but if it doesn't have an ending, I don't want to hear it.
Well, that's the thing. To me, and surprise, surprise to our listeners, I watch some anime. To me, I will never start an anime until I know that there is an ending to it. Same thing. It's like characters can't progress if they go on forever because they can't do anything too big. Because if they do anything too big, the character will change too much, and then people can't just hop in. And it needs to have an end so that they can just get it out of their system. Well, like that's the thing with Full Metal Alchemist. Wow, that is something completely different. With Full Metal Alchemist, I'm glad that they finished that first series, and then they waited for the manga to finish, and then they did the second series. Like, I'm glad that they did that, instead of saying, oh, wow, that was pretty popular, let's continue the story of the first one. Like, I'm not necessarily even a big fan of the first one's ending, but I'm glad that they decided to make an entire new show instead of trying to restart and botch an ending.
That's kind of off topic about what you're talking about, but it really reminds me of how Ben 10 has done stuff, and I really like how that show has changed and evolved. So it did like the 4 seasons of him as the kid, and then it did like 3 other seasons of him as a teenager, and then I think they're in like the 2nd season of a new series that they're doing. So whereas it kind of has gone on for 9 seasons, it doesn't seem that way because it's changing. It's constantly changed.
Yeah, and Ben 10, I'm actually glad you brought that show up. That is such a great show. Why can't we take that stuff and actually make adult versions? You know what I mean? And not adult like, no, not that kind of adult. The last thing I need is that image in my mind. But I don't know why they can't mature it up, because I mean, that show has some great sci-fi themes that I've watched entire seasons of sci-fi shows for older people that have just been, essentially, oh, hey, cool, here's this little weird mechanic and poop jokes, to keep everyone watching. Whereas in that show, they had, there's one scene, he finds out why the Omnitrix is made. Because he's been using it as a weapon. And the creator's like, oh, I need to destroy it because you've been using it as a weapon. He's like, isn't that what it is? And he's like, no, the whole point is that you can take the form of another person and you can understand them. And it's supposed to be this great tool for diplomacy. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, really? A kid's show is doing this? And the last bit of sci-fi I watched was really just a bunch of jokes? It's like, come on. If they can do it, we can do it. It's not that hard. They're doing it for kids. And maybe that's why adults grow out of sci-fi, is because they're too afraid to approach the things that they approach in kids' shows. And so they realize that it's just dumb stuff.